Again, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you. We're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Michael Stevens. I'm the Interim Development Director for the City of Columbus, and I am pleased to welcome you here this morning as we launch our small business agenda. I want to thank Alex, Tim, and the team at Root for hosting us in this great space. It's great to be talking about our small business agenda with a company that was a small business and has grown tremendously here in Columbus. We really appreciate the commitment that you've made to this city, so thank you. I also want to thank all of the partners who've been engaged in this effort. As we've developed the small business agenda over the past years, it hasn't been a government-led effort. It has been an effort through engagement with our community and our small business leaders and who's represented today in this room. So thank you for your work. I truly believe we're putting forth something that's different today, and that is because of the engagement we have of those community leaders. I also want to thank Mayor Ginther and Council President Hardin for their unwavering commitment to small business. Last year, they launched the Reimagining Small Business Initiative campaign, and they tasked the Department of Development to develop a comprehensive assessment and study of opportunities for entrepreneurship-based economic development. So that task, that work is done, but the hard work is in front of us. So I'm excited to be here today, and I'm also excited to introduce your mayor, Mayor Andrew Ginther.
Good morning. What a great morning in the city of Columbus. I want to thank Interim Director Stevens for that introduction. I'm thrilled to see you all today. If you get an elbow bump as opposed to a hug or a handshake, it's because of this cold I'm carrying, and I do not want to send it home with you for the holidays. So, and I also will be even more brief this morning because of it. Who wants to listen to a voice like this? But I want to thank our Department of Development, our incredible council president. We're really blessed with this work to have an advocate like Council President Hardin on council, and thrilled to have him here today. Next Street, Pringle Business Consulting, and so many of the open house participants and folks that have been engaged with this. You've heard me say it before, and you will hear me say it again. My top three priorities as mayor are neighborhoods, neighborhoods, neighborhoods. And a key catalyst to lifting up our neighborhoods is empowering and encouraging the growth of small businesses and entrepreneurs. A year ago, many of us in this room gathered to kick off an endeavor to reimagine small business, assess our business landscape, and build a city-sponsored business support ecosystem. Please raise your hand if you've been part of this process thus far. Just give me that's pretty awesome, pretty fantastic. And I want to thank you for your continued commitment. America's Opportunity City is blessed with a diverse community of small businesses and entrepreneurs who want to grow and thrive. We have a strong and growing base of approximately 122,000 small businesses in Columbus. We're also fortunate to have many public and private sector partners who've come together to help build a strategic agenda that addresses some of the challenges we face. Columbus ranks below the national average in terms of its share of small businesses or businesses with fewer than 50 employees. This effort is about us changing that story. We know that many of these small businesses are women and minority-owned. We're confident that the efforts undertaken over the last several months and the work that lies ahead through the small business agenda, that we will change these statistics so that everyone has a fair shot at business ownership as we strive to create economic empowerment for all. We can't become America's opportunity city unless we first become America's equal opportunity city. And small businesses and entrepreneurs are critical to our success in the future. As Mike mentioned, I want to thank Alex, Tim, and all his colleagues here at Root for hosting us today. They are such an incredible partner for small businesses and entrepreneurs and for policymakers to ensure we are keeping top of mind what it takes and how we can best partner with small and emerging companies in and around Columbus. So to Alex and his colleagues, we say thank you. Now it's my pleasure to introduce our great partner, an amazing advocate and leader of Columbus City Council, our council president, Shannon Hardin.
Thank you, Mayor. I certainly want to echo the Mayor's appreciation to Alex, Tim, and all those folks here at Root for hosting us today. Certainly to Director Stevens, to Henry Galat, who we'll hear from soon, Quentin Harris, and everyone from the Department of Development who has worked on this effort in-house. I also would like to recognize Director Demita Brown, the Director of the Office of Diversity and Inclusion. This work has to be seen as an inclusive work, like that we're doing this together, both our Office of Diversity and Inclusion, but also the Small Business Office out of Department of Development. I want to thank some of the folks who have supported from the council side, Ms. Karina Johnson and Zach Davidson from our legislative office and from my office, and everyone who participated. That really was amazing, Mayor, when you asked the question, who has participated in this effort? And nearly the entire room raised their hand. I think that speaks to a process that was open, that was transparent, and that will result in us moving forward with a strong small business agenda. Your input and expertise in this arena is tremendously valuable, and we thanks to all that have engaged throughout the process. I want to be open and upfront about where we started. You really can't move forward if you don't first open up the hood and really see where things are. And simply put, a couple years ago, the City of Columbus's small business work was kind of weak. It consisted of a program over here, a couple of line items in our operating budget over here, and I have to admit, an eager council member or so putting together a program and engaging over there. It was kind of a hodgepodge. It was doing good work, but it wasn't an agenda. It wasn't the most inviting system. Small businesses looking for assistance would often wind up on endless referral chains, having to call this organization or that capital provider. Time that should have been spent, truthfully, working on your small business. But over the past year, alongside a robust committee of small business owners and industry experts, we've analyzed the experiences of budding entrepreneurs. Not only those folks who have decided they want to launch a business, but those who are entrepreneurs who want to grow their operations from 2 employees to 5 or 10 employees. I think a lot in this role and work with the mayor day in and day out, thinking about Columbus in 2040. Columbus has the fastest growing economy and population in the Midwest. So the question is no longer will we grow, it's what will that growth look like? To remember how cities across America grew in the past, I keep a map on my conference room table. It's a 1936 map of lending risk created by the Homeowners Loan Corporation. This map is also known as a redlining map. I keep this map on my conference room table to remember that historical policies structured markets and created our built environment. Those past policies were set up intentionally to benefit some and limit others. And we, as a community, must be just as intentional in our policies moving forward to correct some of those past errors. If we want an inclusive economy in Columbus, small businesses and their growth rest at the heart of that equation. Today you will hear that there are a few critical opportunities for us, and if we tackle them as a community, we will set a path forward for a more equitable Columbus. We would not be in this place were it not for a gentleman who came in from Arkansas, who told us, and we heard about all the great things that he had done there. He saw our great work that we were doing in Columbus, but said, I think I can add something. If you trust me over this year, and it was hard we didn't pause for a year, but we definitely recommitted ourselves to a broader project. He said, will you trust me for a year as we go out and we try to build this ecosystem? We trusted him. He did the work. He engaged all of you in this room. I am very, very proud of the work of our Small Business and Entrepreneur Development Director, Mr. Henry Galat.
Wow, was he talking about somebody else? I just have to pinch myself. Thank you so much, Mayor, Director Stevens, and of course, our chairperson, our president of our city council, President Hardin. One thing I learned early on growing up in Arkansas is that, many hands make light work, okay? And so when you think about all of the people that are gathered here in this room, you've all played a part in helping us to reimagine small business development and small business initiative for the city of Columbus. And give yourself a round of applause for that effort. The other thing I oftentimes remind myself of is the old proverb or saying that goes that if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go with somebody and go with others. And so what we did in terms of reimagining small business and getting started with this work, we looked beyond what was right on the ground before our face and what had actually been tried and thought about what could be possible. In order to do that, we reached out and put out a comprehensive request for proposal, probably one of the first that had ever been done with the economic development lens around entrepreneurship for the city of Columbus. And we were fortunate to find an organization that I knew somewhat of, but didn't know them personally and hadn't worked with them, to be honest with you. But I had seen their work in Boston, heard of their work in Chicago, and even their work in New York City. And we brought alongside of us an organization that has done phenomenal work and really lent credibility to the work that we were doing to allow us to not only do the work on the ground here, but also because of their vast network to be able to have this work echoed in their footprint and where they had actually been performing the work in other cities. And so we chose Next Street Financials LLC. And so Next Street has been our partner in this work for the past year. Their team contributes several strengths that complement the city of Columbus and have enabled us to reach this point. Next Street operates with racial equity at its core. That was really something we were looking for, Director Brown. Racial equity at its core. Their racial equity lens has been woven through every part of the work, from the research all the way to the strategies that you'll hear talked about here today. The team also conducts rigorous research and is skilled at managing a wide range of stakeholders, both of which have been critical for ensuring this work takes a data-driven and collaborative approach. Lastly, Next Street brings national expertise. They have completed small business assessments and ecosystem assessments in over 15 major cities and places throughout the country, and have drawn on those experiences to push Columbus to reimagine, in the process of reimagining how we support small businesses. With that, it is my pleasure to introduce Cerise Conan Johnson, a partner with Next Street Financials. Cerise.
Good morning. Good morning. There we go. What a wonderful Columbus morning greeting. Thank you so much, Henry and President Hardin and Mayor and Director Stevens. It is a pleasure to stand before you along with Columbus' finest. That's you. In our work at Next Street, where we want to revolutionize how our clients, like cities, and many of the stakeholders gathered around this table, get more capital and customers and services to small businesses and entrepreneurs. It's so important when we stand in venues like this to recognize the work that it took to get here. We're so excited to have partnered with the city specifically, but also, again, many of the stakeholders around this table. I do want to say a special thank you to Henry and to Karen and to Celeste and the working group at the city, because they were our day-to-day to get this work forward, as well as the advisory committee and working groups. And while Director Stevens says that this wasn't a city-led process, I will have to tell you from our work around the country, it is unique and rare to see the city's leadership. And so you are to be commended in that way, and I want to celebrate that and what's happening here, because I too want to look ahead 10 years from now, look back and say, wow, look what we reimagined. And in doing so, it's important to know that this work matters. You might not know this, but small businesses create 2 out of every 3 net new jobs in this country. As such, small business development is important to the development of communities and cities. Through this work, we also had a particular focus, as you've been hearing, on business owners of color as well as women. And I just want to highlight that for a couple of reasons. Number one, these business owners are particularly critical for the overall competitiveness of the city of Columbus. And when these owners thrive, the whole economy thrives. And so we want to have that inclusive lens. Underlying these reasons is a core belief, and many of the people in this room believe that Columbus is better off when many of these business owners have access to the support they need to thrive. We also focus this work on Main Street businesses, defined as those that serve the local market. You might know them as mom and pop businesses. And that's because through the research, we realized that there were some gaps in serving these businesses in particularly. And so we wanted to make sure that our agenda and our go-forward plan really addresses this particular demographic. Ultimately, this work matters. As small business, again, is that vehicle for economic opportunity for all. And with that, I'll turn it over to my colleague, Joan Spiritus, who led a lot of our work here with my other colleague, Lauren Key, and she'll spend a few minutes talking through how we got here, as well as several key takeaways. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Charisse. So we at Next Street began our work with the City of Columbus nearly a year ago from today. And the task in front of us was to assess the small business ecosystem and the landscape and identify the gaps and the opportunities to better support a thriving and a more inclusive small business ecosystem. So to do that, we took a comprehensive, data-driven, and collaborative approach supported by a group of more than 40 advisors, including small business owners, entrepreneur support organizations, capital providers, representatives from government agencies, and others, many of whom, of course, as you saw earlier, are in the room here today. So we began in phase 1 to uncover key gaps and opportunities for supporting small businesses. And this included a qualitative and quantitative assessment of the ecosystem that included a review of more than 30 reports related to the current state of play in economic development, but importantly also included focus groups and interviews with more than 50 small business owners and representatives from entrepreneur support organizations, so that our work was really deeply informed by on-the-ground insights from small business owners. And then we also quantitatively analyzed key indicators with help from our partners at Development Strategies to look at small business growth, metrics, ownership demographics, and the concentration of small businesses geographically across the city with a focus specifically on underserved neighborhoods. We also looked at and conducted a capital support analysis where we did a deeper dive of the current state of debt and equity capital available to small businesses. And we also wanted to understand Columbus as it relates to and compares to other cities and see what we could glean and understand from best practices in different cities around the country. And so looked at key business metrics as well as best practices and qualitative case studies from cities that are succeeding on different fronts in small business. In the second phase of our work, we shifted our effort from research and assessment and analysis and data gathering to really planning and implementation and how to take those insights and shift into action. So we synthesized our findings, we prioritized with the help of our advisory committee the most pressing gaps and the greatest opportunities to really affect real change in the small business landscape in Columbus. And we started to talk as well about execution planning, all of which culminated in the small business agenda that we're sharing today. So our findings, the first phase of our work yielded many useful insights and findings. You'll find those outlined in greater detail in the agenda report. But 4 key takeaways really stand out in the small business ecosystem in Columbus that we wanted to speak to today. The first is that there's limited awareness of existing resources. There are actually numerous services and providers and resources available to small business owners, as you all know, but awareness of those resources is limited and actually inconsistent. And so there's an opportunity to increase awareness of the resources that exist already today and the rich landscape of those resources among small business owners who need to benefit from them. Second, while there are plentiful resources here for business owners and entrepreneurs who are in the early stages of starting a small business, there's a gap when businesses get to a post-launch stage of support that's more appropriate for them if they've been operating for, say, 2 or more years and are looking to meaningfully scale and grow their small business. Third is that people of color and women face disproportionate challenges accessing capital. This is not a problem that is unique to Columbus, as you all know, but it's present here as it is across the country, and our research affirmed that people of color and women face disproportionate challenges when seeking capital to fund their businesses due to a variety of factors, including lower levels of wealth, limited networks, and discrimination. And then fourth, ESOs, or entrepreneurial support organizations and capital providers, struggle to reach small businesses in underserved neighborhoods. So there isn't as great a presence of such providers in underserved neighborhoods like, say, Linden or Hilltop. And the outreach strategies to those neighborhoods, particularly to people of color and women in those neighborhoods, is not as strong as it could be. And so while I've focused on the gaps here and the opportunities for improvement, Columbus certainly has considerable strengths and a strong small business landscape, but gaps such as these currently prevent the small business ecosystem from reaching its full potential and from what we can imagine for a more inclusive and thriving small business landscape. And so with that, I'll pass it back to Henry Galat to describe our mission, our vision for a more inclusive and thriving small business ecosystem and path forward.
So what's unique about this process is that it does bring a lot of entities that you've seen together, but it is a paradigm shift, as was said by President Hardin, from what we were doing and most cities are doing in this regard. So the Small Business Agenda prioritizes inclusive entrepreneurship and small business development as an economic development imperative. It has been designed as a multi-year initiative and thus comprises near, short, and long-term strategies. The departmental working group, citywide project team, and that means we actually selected people from throughout the total city enterprise to be a part of our project team so that we can gather and gain from their experiences, having worked in those various departments in terms of how they have interacted, their programs that they've put together, the results of those programs as it relates to working with small businesses. And so they were a part of that citywide project team that was a part of the work that was being done. The other piece is stakeholders and an advisory committee that we mentioned so often here already. Contributed in creating a mission and a vision statements that will anchor our activities and activities and efforts going over the next 2 to 3 years. That's important because, again, this is a multi-year strategy. It's not something that we do 1 year and walk away from. We are coordinating something for multi-years. The mission of the Columbus Small Business Agenda is to cultivate inclusive, dynamic, and continuously improving small business ecosystem that enables all entrepreneurs to enjoy equitable opportunity for success that contributes to local economic development outcomes. That's a mouthful, but it's a lot being said there. One is inclusive, dynamic, and continuously improving. That piece around continuously improving. And, you know, we use that oftentimes in the educational world, but in order for us to really be true to this work, we've got to realize that because of the changing dynamics with regards to the economy and other factors that we don't control, we have to always be mindful of being in a position to change and move and be progressive in that regard. Our vision statement, we envision a coordinated, connected, and vibrant network that affords small businesses, and in particular, enterprises owned by entrepreneurs of color, the opportunity to start, sustain, and scale to create economic empowerment for all. Our mission and vision statements are both bold and will require collaboration across the entire small business ecosystem to ensure success. For this reason, we have developed a small business agenda framework that enables and establishes clear roles and responsibilities for the different stakeholder groups. 4 ecosystem builders would lead the small business agenda and have responsibilities for specific strategies. A priority of the framework is to maintain connectedness among participating organizations across various initiatives. The City of Columbus will serve as an overarching ecosystem builder and will work alongside 3 other builders that include Sadiqa White and Associates, Rev 1 Ventures, and the Ohio Minority Supply Development Council. The ecosystem builders will be supported by vice chairs and working committees and will help drive actions on respective strategies. Lastly, the sponsors, including the City of Columbus, will serve as evangelists and advocates for the small business agenda and equip the ecosystem builders with the resources needed for long-term success. To ensure that we build momentum and create immediate impact, we have outlined several short-term wins that will enable us to quickly move the needle on our mission within the first 90 days. The first of those short-term wins is the development of an impact framework to measure tangible progress and outcomes within the working committees and collectively across the entire small business agenda. At this time, I would like to recognize each of our ecosystem builders and ask that they stand as their names are called. Representing Sadiqa White and Associates and Committee Number 1, Kimberly Gale, Columbus Urban Region. Alicia Adi is with Rev 1 Ventures, and she represents Committee Number 2. Christy Campbell is with Rev 1 Ventures, representing Committee Number 3. And of course, Jackie Neal and Greg Watson is with Committee Number 4, Ohio Minority Supply Development Council. At the conclusion of the speaking portion of this event, each builder, along with the city and Next Street, will be able to engage with the public to share information on committee structures and planned short-term wins and activities that are expected to be accomplished by those various committees. As you would imagine, the engagement of entrepreneurs and small business owners was critical and central in assessing and planning this comprehensive and strategic initiative. I would now like to bring forward Ms. Linda Pringle Evans of Pringle Business Consulting to share remarks. Linda is both a small business owner and a member of the advisory committee for this initiative. Linda?
Mayor Ginther, President Hardin. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Thank you, Henry. As Henry mentioned, I am Linda Pringle Evans, founder and president of Pringle Business Consulting, where we serve emerging female entrepreneurs to grow and scale their businesses. In addition, we help our clients to discover their unique value proposition, which sets them apart from their competitors. I have been engaged with the small business agenda throughout the past few months. I have also served as a member of the advisory committee. As a small business owner in Columbus, I have experienced many of the challenges that were identified through this small business ecosystem assessment, such as not knowing where to find resources or spending an inordinate amount of time vetting the quality of resources. Conversely, I have also experienced the strength and assets of our community and small business ecosystems. I have received support from several entrepreneur support organizations and capital providers that has helped me to launch a new 2020 initiative aimed at assisting more women business owners to generate 6 figures or more in annual gross sales. Several community banks, through their community reinvestment programs, are considering partnering with us to support this worthy cause. Needless to say, I am excited about what lies ahead for our city. The City of Columbus, the ecosystem builders, the Next Street team, and the entire advisory committee have taken a collaborative and community-centric approach to this effort, and because of this approach, I am confident that the small business agenda will create more quantifiable opportunities for small business owners to thrive. If you would like to know more about my thoughts on the small business agenda, or how you can become a power partner with us in assisting more women business owners to grow, let's talk. Thank you.
So as you see, we're true to what we're trying to do here. We're really acting and impacting and engaging, I should say, entrepreneurs of color as we go through this work. We're at a point now where many of you are asking, how do we move forward? What's the call to action? How do we go to the next level? We've identified 4 areas where we ask you to get involved. One is listening. You know, small businesses are talking. I actually went to the barbershop yesterday in preparation for this event. I shared with my barber what we were doing, and he certainly, Mayor, asked, what is the city doing and how can I get involved? And so I get that all the time. I mean, they want to be involved. And so listening is a key part of it. You can't solve a problem if you're not listening to people. And so this process allows us to do that. But also engaging and asking those entrepreneurs to be involved in this work. Each of those committees that we laid out, and we want to have opportunity for you to engage with them later, but each one of those committees allow for entrepreneurs to be a part of that process. So we're not building something for them, we're building something with them. So that's important to call out. The other piece is buying from these entrepreneurs. If we create the culture of entrepreneurship in this city, Mayor, and you lift up entrepreneurs and you celebrate their successes on every turn, you're going to get a response out of the entrepreneurial community that we have not yet seen. You're going to see more businesses taking chances and really getting involved and being involved. That's where we need to be. So lifting up a culture of entrepreneurship and celebrating it not only within the Department of Development, but throughout the entire enterprise of the city. Every department needs to be thinking about how can we make that journey to entrepreneurship more successful, and how can we do business where business is possible with those entrepreneurs. Our process has allowed for us to have a number of those, Linda and others, involved. Look at the back of in the back of the program, and you'll see a list of entrepreneurs, and each one of them would love your business. They would love to do business with you. So that's a way we can move forward with this, by buying from them. The other piece is sharing this report. The report that we have is available online in limited copies here today, but sharing that work, immersing yourself in that work. We've asked our partners and those that are at the table and those that are not at the table yet to look at that agenda. Council President, and find themselves in that agenda and then come back and talk with the city, because we really truly want to partner with organizations to move this forward. So sharing that report, and on social media, we have a whole toolkit that will allow you to hashtag it, to pull it down. We've got the social assets that you can use in tweeting about this work and sharing on Facebook and what have you. We have that available to you, and we'll make it available for your uses. Then connecting with the city's Office of Small Business and Entrepreneurial Development, which I am the coordinator for that office and that work that we're doing. Get involved. Let us know again what you're thinking and what your needs are. And if we can't meet those needs, we have a partnership relationship that we would work with you to get the need met. The other piece is, like I said, just engaging with the working group. I mentioned that before, but getting engaged, getting involved. And we can all celebrate within the time frame that Sharice mentioned, and even before, because I know this work is where we need to be. And I tell you this, it puts us on parallel grounds with other cities that are actually being progressive in this regard. And so with that, I thank you for coming. I do, again, recognize our ecosystem builders and thank them for the work that they're doing in coming alongside the city and, kind of broadening our shoulders, so to speak, and helping us to do more. And those ecosystem builders will be available at the back of the room. There are tables and stations set up, so for the public that want to engage with those ecosystem builders, that opportunity would be afforded to you. And so this brings us close to our program, and thank you for coming. And let's make 2020 the year of entrepreneurship and small business for the city of Columbus.